everyone, welcome back to another video where today we are going to be reviewing The Devil's Chord, the second episode of the new Russell T Davies series, Season 1, Shooty Gatwa, Millie Gibson. I'm going to hit it right off. This was more of what I was hoping for from the previous episode. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy Space Babies for what it is, it's a fun time, but this is more the level I was thinking of. Immediately it strikes itself out as a completely different type of episode from what Russell has done before, in my opinion. It's meta, which I'm not sure Russell has ever really done to this degree. Let's just get right into it. I'll talk some plot mechanics and then we'll just discuss everything bit by bit. There's a lot to go over. So immediately I want to point out, star of this episode for me, Jinx Monsoon. She absolutely crushed it. She absolutely kills this role. Oh my god, she's fantastic in it. Like, I know there was a lot of people saying, like, oh, you know, complaining, like, basically when she was cast. But I have to say, I thought she was great. She gave really kind of, like, hocus pocus type, but genuinely evil energy. Like, there was multiple points where, like, I was genuinely worried, like, what's gonna happen? And that hasn't happened for me in a long time. And I think it helps that the Doctor feels like that again. The Doctor feels vulnerable. We discover that Maestro basically gets released when something called the Devil's Chord is played, and the Devil's Chord is played in the 1920s, and basically Maestro therefore saps all music away from humanity in order to basically power herself up, and the only thing she wants to hear is the sound of a nuclear winter, the natural sound of nature, I suppose. So she sucks away all human-made music and uses its power against us. Really, really cool concept, and we learn that she is, or they, are the child of the Toymaker, which is a really, really cool little twist. So yeah, music is being sapped away from everyone, including, but not limited to, the Beatles. So we see a scene where the Doctor and Ruby are super excited to go see the Beatles. We even get like a cool montage of them getting dressed up for the occasion to go to the 60s to see the first Beatles recording live, only to discover that they sound awful. They're making this terrible song about how great it is to be alive. I can't even remember what the song was. And they also go to see Cilla Black, and it's the same problem. And they go and see the orchestra, and the music's just gone. The life and soul of music is just dead. And so they go and confront Ringo and John Lennon about it. I think that's the two that they confront. I'm not a Beatles aficionado. I'm going to say that right now. So don't expect me to go into the detail or accuracy of the Beatles stuff, because frankly, it's not my area. But, I mean, they sounded like the Beatles to me, and they looked enough like them for me to buy it. So they basically have no soul left in them. The music in their souls is gone. It's been evaporated. But there's still little bits of it left in them, in the corner of their eyes, in the deepest part of their souls. So we discover essentially that, yeah, the Maestro has sapped this all away. The Doctor has an initial confrontation with the Maestro where he cleverly uses the sonic to remove all, like, vibrations and sound from the local area, which I thought was a really cool use of the sonic. Yeah, do we ever get it explained why the sonic is red now? I was expecting that to get explained, but it just sort of happened. I know that they explained Shooty's hair with a wig, which makes sense, and that was kind of the explanation I was expecting, but I still found it somewhat, like, weird that the sonic just never got explained, like, why it's a different colour now. Anyway, maybe that'll come up later. We get this moment where the Doctor is terrified, basically, that, oh my god, the pantheon of gods I have unleashed. I have unleashed the Toymaker's legions. The last time this happened, and I thought this was really interesting, my soul got split in half. So this implies, to me at least, that the regeneration was more than just a simple whoop. You know, there's more than just that. There's more to it than just that. It's more than just two Doctors existing simultaneously. A part of him went with the 14th Doctor in a way, which I thought was an interesting way of framing it. So that's why 15 is basically afraid to go up against Maestro again, because they only barely succeeded last time, but that was with two of them. But Millie's like, yeah, we can just fix this. I still exist in the future. And the Doctor's like, well, no, actually. Takes her to the future, and yeah, it's completely knackered. It's a war-torn world, and Jinx Monsoon basically says the only way the Doctor and Ruby can stop it is to go back to the 60s and confront Jinx there, which they do. That's the only place the TARDIS can go, because Jinx, or Maestro, has seized control of the TARDIS, and so they have this final confrontation at the EMI studios, and it's genuinely wonderful. So the snow thing gets revisited. Ruby gets caught up in the musical notes, but her song is stronger than the Maestro anticipates. In fact, we get a reprise of Choir of the Bells. I think that's what it's called. The song that's that one. And it's because of whatever's gone on with Ruby's birth parents. And Jinx says something really interesting about, can't remember what he was called, about something called the originator, something like that. Someone will correct me. I have only seen this the one time. She's kind of like, what is this? You shouldn't be able to do this. This is something beyond me, even. So that's really interesting. And we get another hint towards the one who waits as well, which the Toymaker mentioned. I thought was a really effective thing to have Jinx introduced with the giggle. I think that's a really cool calling card. I also had a couple of similar musical motifs to the Toymaker, which I thought was really fun. Apparently Murray Gold's in this, although I didn't see him. If anyone saw him, let me know. I didn't see it, but maybe I just missed it. The musical elements to this, as in the musical episode elements to this, aren't as big as you'd think. And honestly, I kind of liked that. You get a big third act climax song called There's Always a Twist at the End, which I actually really liked, but it doesn't feel overdone. The meta humour is interesting, though, because that's not something Doctor Who's ever really done. Sure, Capaldi's, done bits where he'll talk to Beethoven, but this had not only Jinx breaking the fourth wall at the beginning with her playing the Doctor's notes and looking into camera as the title sequence plays, but also you have the Doctor winking to camera when he introduces the musical section. So I'm wondering if the walls between reality are kind of shifting here, or whether it's just for humour. Either way, I actually think it's quite original and unique for the show. I don't think it removes the tension from it personally. We've always kind of assumed that the Doctor somewhat knows that they're in a TV show, and there's a really fun line where Ruby is being captured by the Maestro's music, but he says, oh, I thought that was just non-diegetic, but it wasn't. It was the Maestro in the story. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, getting back to the plot, because again, this is all over the place, they have a final conflict at the EMI studios, and it looks like Jinx has won. The Doctor is a genius. He's very smart, so he thinks, oh, I can find all the notes to the Devil's Chord. And he does find most of them, but one's missing. And then the Beatles show up and find that final chord because they themselves have music in their hearts, and the Doctor and Ruby are freed. Really, really nice resolution. I think I preferred this definitely to the game of Catch. Personally, this for me made more sense. It tied the Beatles in a nice way without feeling too forced. The Beatles themselves aren't a huge part of this, but they're enough of a part to where it works. It's not like a celebrity historical in the traditional sense, but they are important parts of the story. They are the reason the story resolves. I want to talk a little bit about both Ncuti and Millie's performances, because boy oh boy, I think Ncuti, this was his episode to really shine. Last episode I kind of said I wanted some more depth to the character to be on display in future episodes, and boy does this deliver. We get a really nice moment where he mentions Shoreditch and Totter's Lane, and he basically hypothesizes that, for all I know, Susan, his granddaughter, could be wiped out from the onslaught of Gallifrey, which I thought, what a lovely thing. And I don't think the Doctor's ever even acknowledged that as a possibility before, so I was like, that was really cool. But there's so many moments where he's vulnerable, but it doesn't feel unwarranted, because he's going up against a literal god. You can tell he's struggling with it, and I like that. I felt for the longest time that what the Doctor really needs, because the Doctor is essentially an all-powerful character. He's basically pretty much a god in and of his own right, in terms of what he can do in narrative. As Jinx says, he can literally step from one time to another, and she calls the Doctor something, and I don't remember what it is. And it's a really, really cool name for the Doctor. I'll have to get it back again. Again, I might get some details wrong here, but he is basically a god in his own stories. The Doctor is that. So having him go up against other legitimate gods is like a stroke of genius, in my opinion. It makes so much sense. We also do get to see Susan Twist, very briefly, as the lady who's selling the tea at EMI Studios. Wanted to point that out because, obviously, it might be relevant going forward. Overall, this was a big step up from Space Babies, in my personal opinion. Not to say I didn't enjoy Space Babies, but that was like 7 out of 10. Maybe like a 6.5, 7-ish. This was more like an 8. This was up there with the Giggle. It might actually even be better than the Giggle. I don't know, I like the Giggle a lot. But this didn't have some of the issues I had with the Giggle. This was, from start to finish, a really enjoyable, entertaining watch. And it's unlike most other Doctor Who that I've seen, personally. It has kind of an 80s vibe to it in some places, but it also has its own vibe. But sometimes it feels RTD-ish. Sometimes there's a bit of Moffat with some of the fantasy elements going on, but it also feels like its own thing. And that's something I've really been wanting, and I think this delivers it fully. I'm just trying to remember if there's anything else. I mentioned the title sequence in the last video, so I don't need to cover that. We do get a next time trailer for Boom, but I haven't got much to say about that. It was quite a simple, oh, if I step on the button, I'm gonna die. So, not much to really say there, but I am very much looking forward to the Moffat episode, particularly after this episode, which I thought was a very, very strong showing, and I can kind of see why they bundled these two together, because I think Space Babies on its own, while it's fun, and I enjoyed it, and it's good, I think for new audiences, this is more of a mission statement. This is a fun, frenetic, bonkers episode, Doctor Who doing things that it's never done before. I know Russell has kind of said, Doctor Who is unchanged now. Truly, I believe this is the start of that. You could argue the giggle is to an extent, but I think this is where we're really starting to see those chickens come home to roost. It doesn't feel like RTD1, doesn't feel like Moffat, doesn't feel like Chibnall, doesn't feel like Classic Who. There's elements there, but it feels like its own thing. I feel like I'm going around in circles, so I'm going to wrap it up. But I thought this was an absolute banger of an episode. From start to finish, in my opinion. Really unique, really different. I thought Jinx killed it. I thought she was really good. I've not really seen her in anything else, to be honest, but I thought, special shout out to her. Ruby, Millie... Oh, I haven't spoken about Millie Gibson. Millie Gibson was also great in this episode. I really loved the scene where she just says, "What about my mum?" when she goes back home and she's crying. Heartbreaking stuff. I'm loving seeing that come out more, and I'm really interested to see that stuff. I thought that it might bother me that Ruby was special and important, because that was kind of a trope that I felt kind of got old after a while, but it seems like it's not necessarily a good thing. I don't know whether it's just me, but I'm kind of getting Fenric vibes with Ace. You know how Fenric kind of set up Ace to be with the Doctor? I'm wondering if there's something to do with that. If it turns out to be Fenric, one of you owes me a favour. But anyway, overall, really, really enjoyed this one. I'm just trying to think, because there was so much in it. I'm trying to make sure I get everything in. Oh, that one bit where that old woman dies, I was like, no, don't kill the old woman, she's nice. She just wants to play the piano, leave her alone. Like, I cared for the side characters in this, which hasn't really happened in a while. And I think this just felt like one big love letter to music. And I'm not even, like, a musical guy in the sense of, like, I don't listen to music as recreationally as some other people do. I do it occasionally, but I'm more of a, movie guy. But this was just fantastic. It made me want to, like, listen to a bunch of music, which I think is probably what the aim was. Yeah, I thought this was really good. The musical numbers worked. It didn't feel too overbearing or cringe. I think they found the right balance. The Beatles were well incorporated. They weren't there long, but they were well incorporated. The whole 60s vibe of it is great. That ending scene does feel very Austin Powers, which I was hoping for. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. But let me know what you guys thought. Drop your comments down in the section below. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Don't play any music or she might come and get you, and I'll see you later.